Welcome to International Trade Minute Quickfire Trade News, the essential podcast for today's trade professionals, presented to you by Rydell Law Firm. If you're a seasoned practitioner, this is where you'll find your weekly distilled briefing on the pulse of international commerce and regulation. We bring you the latest legal and trade news distilled into straightforward, bite-sized updates for busy trade professionals. Sponsored by Rydell Law Firm. This podcast is crafted by expert trade attorneys to keep you ahead of the curve with concise, actionable insights. Perfect for your morning commute or coffee break. Stay informed without the fluff. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and join our professional community on LinkedIn. In this episode, we'll dive into the latest legal and trade developments that matter most to seasoned practitioners like you. We've got a packed lineup today, covering everything from forced labor allegations to export control violations. Let's get started. First up, in a significant development for international trade, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has lifted the withhold release order on disposable gloves produced by Malaysian company Brightway Holding. This decision comes after Brightway successfully demonstrated that its manufacturing processes no longer involve forced labor. The original order, issued in December 2021, followed an investigation that identified multiple indicators of forced labor. However, Brightway has since taken comprehensive steps to address these concerns and fully remediate the forced labor indicators in its production. This case underscores the critical importance of compliance with U.S. trade laws. It serves as a prime example of how companies can regain access to the U.S. market by documenting their adherence to legal and ethical standards. Acting CBP Commissioner Troy Miller emphasized this point, stating that when companies can prove compliance with U.S. trade laws, they'll have access to the U.S. market. For trade practitioners, this development highlights the need to stay vigilant about supply chain practices and be prepared to demonstrate compliance when challenged. For our next story, Oregon-based aerospace parts manufacturer Precision Castparts Corp. has been hit with a $3 million fine for violating U.S. defense export controls. The company's subsidiary illegally shared technical data with foreign national employees from Mexico, El Salvador, Honduras, Bhutan, Peru, and Burundi. The State Department found that these actions violated both the Arms Export Control Act and the International Traffic in Arms Regulations, potentially compromising U.S. national security. As part of the settlement, Precision Castparts has agreed to several compliance measures, including hiring a government-approved special compliance officer for the next 3 years. The company must also conduct an audit, review export control classifications of all its defense articles and services, implement a comprehensive automated compliance system, and allocate $1 million of the penalty toward improving its ITAR compliance procedures. This case underscores the critical importance of maintaining robust export control measures, especially when dealing with sensitive technical data in the aerospace industry. Moving on with our next piece, the Office of Foreign Assets Control has made significant updates to its reporting regulations, aiming to streamline processes and provide clarity for trade professionals. These changes, effective from November 7th, introduce 3 key exceptions to reporting requirements. Firstly, certain transfers of funds between blocked accounts within a financial institution's branches no longer require reporting. Secondly, property unblocked or transferred under general or specific licenses is exempt, unless the license explicitly mandates a report. Lastly, property unblocked due to an entity's removal from the specially designated nationals list doesn't need reporting. OFAC has also provided guidance on handling mistakenly blocked property. Banks and companies can now unblock property blocked in error without seeking OFAC's permission, provided they file an unblocking report citing FAQ 1196. For more complex cases, a new compliance release process has been introduced. These changes are designed to reduce the reporting burden while maintaining OFAC's ability to track blocked property effectively. Trade practitioners should review these updates to ensure compliance with the new regulations. Up next, in a significant development, 3 Russian nationals have been indicted for export control violations, accused of illegally procuring over $225,000 worth of U.S. microelectronics intended for the Russian military. The scheme involved using third-country companies to conceal the true destination of the controlled electronics from American exporters. The Department of Justice has charged Arthur Petrov, Zhana Soldatenkova, and Ruslan Almatov with various export violations, including breaches of the Export Control Reform Act. The trio allegedly used complex networks to route the sensitive electronics through countries like Cyprus, Latvia, and Tajikistan before ultimately shipping them to Russia. This case underscores the ongoing efforts of Russian entities to circumvent U.S. export controls and highlights the collaborative work of the DOJ, FBI, and Commerce Department in combating such illegal procurement networks. Trade practitioners should remain vigilant of similar schemes and ensure robust compliance measures are in place to prevent inadvertent involvement in such activities. For our closing news in this episode, in a recent ruling, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has denied a request for transaction value adjustment on Chinese origin packaged power units for electronic vaporizers. The case involved R.J. Reynolds Tobacco, which sought refunds on duties and fees for entries filed in late 2020. CBP's decision hinged on two key factors. First, the importer failed to provide a written contract detailing the types of price reductions and their application. Second, the submitted invoices didn't reflect the price reductions corresponding to the credit note issued by the manufacturer. The ruling also addressed the conditional nature of the discounts, which were linked to minimum order quantities. As the importer couldn't demonstrate that these conditions were met at the time of entry, CBP determined the discounts couldn't be used to adjust the transaction value. This case underscores the critical importance of maintaining proper documentation and clear contractual agreements when seeking price adjustments in international trade transactions. As we wrap up today's episode, let's quickly recap the key points we've covered. We discussed the lifting of forced labor allegations on Malaysian disposable gloves, a major aerospace company's fine for unlicensed exports, updates to OFAC's reporting regulations, a Russian microelectronics procurement scheme, and CBP's denial of a transaction value adjustment for vaporizer parts. These stories underscore the ever-evolving nature of international trade law and the importance of staying informed. Thanks for tuning in to International Trade Minute. We hope you found today's episode insightful and useful for your practice. Remember, our podcast is brought to you by Rydell Law Firm, your trusted partner in navigating international trade law. Don't miss our next episode. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Stay connected and continue the conversation with us on LinkedIn. Until next time, stay informed and stay ahead.